Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Not Too Comic Book. This being a show where I talk about TV shows that are adaptations of comic books. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of Riverdale. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. Well, obviously, we're picking up right after the murder. Well, not right after the murder, because we never got the full explanation of how they went about disposing about everything. I mean, we kind of eventually get to okay, what happened to Jughead's body, but the actual disposing of the evidence, we get bits of that, but we don't get the immediate after they're Betty, what did you do? What happened? We don't get that in middle. We literally go from where last week's episode ended to where the season 3 finale ended with them burning the evidence. So we don't get that in between. Maybe at some point we'll circle back to it. Maybe not. That might be a whole thing. We'll have to wait and see. But obviously they're driving back home, not saying anything. Jughead in the voiceover is yeah, but they should have, so they could have gotten their story straight, because when they each get home, their parents are why are you walking into the house in just your underwear? Each one giving literally 3 different stories about what went down. And then, they get together the next day. Betty's we made a major mistake doing that, because if our parents get together, they'll catch the inconsistencies. But it's I know this because I talked to Charles. I was like, I wasn't expecting you to literally tell anyone about this. I mean, granted, it makes sense that Charles would be down for it and everything, but I do think it's a little interesting. Why go to Charles? You could have literally gone to anyone about this, but I guess it's once again, Charles is still both yours and Jughead's half brother, so it's why go? I mean, I guess it makes sense, because it's let's start with someone we can rely on who won't judge us, because everyone else might jump the gun, especially with FP. He gets very heated. Obviously, we know what happened after the whole Penny situation with Jughead. Obviously he wanted blood after that, so it's they might think Jughead, FP wouldn't be listening to reason or something like that. So I just think that's kind of fascinating that you involve Charles. But even because immediately I'm you don't trust Charles, because we know that him and Chick are up to something. We know they've got their own plans. But I'm part of me wonders, is this all part of Charles' plan too? It's oh, this accidentally happened, and it's well, I can take advantage of this, and then it's I'm gonna help you get your guard down, and then I'm gonna strike in my own way. Is he going to take advantage of it? Maybe he's going to pretend like he's helping, but then ultimately screw them over. That's what I'm curious about in that regard as well. I don't know. But then on top of all that, what makes the whole situation even more complicated is that basically each one of the 3 is dealing with their own situation at the time. Obviously Archie's dealing with the fact that his mom's trying to send him to a naval school, because obviously she's trying to help him out with the whole future thing, but obviously he's got this whole Jug thing in the back of his mind. Now he's got to worry about this. Veronica's got to deal with the whole situation with her dad, because her dad's signing a will and everything, and she's none of us are literally talking about the elephant in the room. She rips up the will, and it's that's what I think about your will and everything. So there's that. And obviously Betty's just straight up dealing with the fact is she thinks that she killed Jughead. She's saying definitely no, it's others, but obviously she knows there's something more going on here, because she actually even at one point goes and visits Evelyn, and Evelyn kind of toys with her, being oh yeah, this the phrasing, and it's oh, how is Jughead and stuff, saying all this stuff, because she was able to kind of potentially get inside of Betty. It's just Betty's already worried about the whole thing, which I mean, the complicated thing too is Archie and Veronica have a little meeting of their own, because Veronica's we don't really know the whole truth, and Archie's there's no way Veronica would do it. It's well, to be fair, there's that whole Chuck situation back in season 1, which became basically an evil Betty, and was saying oh, I'm Polly, and was treating him like he was Jason and everything, and she was yeah, which I'm I guess I guess very few people know about that. I think that because I know Chuck brought that up later on when he popped it up again, but I don't know if that, I guess that wasn't public knowledge, because only people who would know were the people who were there and kind of involved. But I think that's kind of interesting that Betty, Veronica's bringing that up. Now, I mean, obviously they haven't seen all the steps towards evil Betty that, Betty's taking down that route. But there's been moments she's kind of going down that route without them being aware, but that's the one that Veronica's aware of. And once again, that was literally in season 1. But it's yeah, but obviously Archie's yeah, but that was Chuck, this is a completely different situation. It's Jughead, but she's I don't know, if she wasn't in control or whatever. So there's even, doubt amongst them about what went down. They're trying to pretend everything's normal. It's Kevin comes over, and Archie's could you come? He's no, Archie, that's stupid. We gotta pretend everything's fine. Oh, come, Kev, tell him to sit down. Archie was just kidding and stuff like that. He's yeah, I'm sorry about that. It's it's interesting, because Betty, I guess she is next to Jughead, they are the most criminally experienced. Obviously, Betty is the detective of the group. So it makes sense for her to kind of basically be taking charge, because like I said, it just kind of all spirals from there. Like obviously, like interesting enough, I wasn't expecting was like his mom being like, yeah, like oh, I introduced you to Brooke. Actually, Brooke is actually my girlfriend, and Archie's like, wait, whoa, like okay, and she's like, I hope that's okay, and it's like, no, it's fine, we'll talk about it later, Mom. But then like that was interesting. I wasn't expecting that because it's like, oh, she helped her through a rough time, and she helped Brooke during a rough time because her husband died, I think in Iraq is what she was saying, and just it ended up becoming something more. And I was like, oh, okay. I mean, I think Archie's probably happy for it, and you deserve happiness in your life, and everything. I mean, we don't know what her dating situation was like, because obviously her and Fred were good, because obviously they're parents, so they were very receptive of each other. I mean, once again, sexuality is very fluid, like it is. It doesn't really matter. It doesn't say anything. But that's what I'm just curious about. Like, has it? Because she says like a year ago, so it's probably like something that started recently. It started fairly recently. So I just thought that was kind of interesting. I was wondering because like I think in the time she was away, I don't think she was dating or anything. At least not that we were aware of. But nevertheless, like I said, getting too caught up. I mean, let's not forget like Fred and Hermione were a thing at that point in time too, so let's not forget about that. But regardless, eventually she kind of asked Archie, she's like, no, what's up? You can tell me anything. Like your dad, like don't, I know I'm not your dad, but you can still tell me anything. And he's about to start talking, and then Betty, like real creepy, like is looking across from her room, being like, calls Archie up. I see you're talking to your mom. Shut your damn mouth. Say Veronica's calling you, just in the conversation. I was like, that's actually super creepy of you, Betty, just peering into his room and doing that. And the fact is, I mean, more power to her being able to deduce that that's what Archie was about to do, spill the beans to her and everything. And Archie just kind of has to leave. And she's like, oh, you're just going to leave again. He kind of comes up with a good excuse, being like, yeah, Mr. Hiram, Mr. Lodge is sick and everything. It's like, oh, like some muscular, and it's like, it wasn't a lie, it was the truth. But he's like, I promise you, Mom. He's like, I'm sorry, it is wrong with me to disrespect you like this, but the fact of the matter is, we will talk and everything. So it's like kind of skated around that, but that was just one of those instances of being like, man, Betty's kind of going hardcore with this whole thing. I mean, her and Charles coming up with this whole plan to try and get the others to, like, the Stonewall prep kids to kind of reveal anything. She kind of goes there first, and Donna's like, oh, what happened? Oh, you and Jughead. And she's like, and like, I love Betty trying to cry. No. Me and you went to the wig. No, I'm pretty sure you went there with Jughead. It's like, you can tell that, because we, just the little bit that we know, whether, obviously Betty doesn't remember everything, but we know, like, no, she definitely went in the woods with Donna, and Jughead definitely went into the woods with Betty and stuff, like, so it's like, we can tell that they're already lying, but obviously she's trying to plant like a recording device and everything, and it's like, it's not going to be that easy, trying to talk them around, like, admitting what went down. And even Brett kind of says at one point, interesting, like, oh, so like she's able to piece enough stuff together to be like, but then obviously Donna was like, shut up, Brett, because he was like, him saying that kind of, it was alluding to the fact is that she was on the right path, that like she was kind of weaving around the lies that they had constructed. So it's like, okay. And also like she get that girl Joan bumps into her, and I'm like, okay, so what the hell is that about? We find out what that is later on, because they ping Jughead's phone, and lo and behold, FP finds it in Betty's pocket. I was like, how did that? I was like, why would Betty keep the phone? That doesn't make any sense. I was like, Joan, right? She literally bumped into Betty. Of course. I was like, that's when it happened. So I know I didn't even talk about it either. It's actually super, once again, kind of, I mean, granted, Charles kind of put her up to it, but her reading a script, I was like, did she come up with that herself? It's like, no, Charles is the one that kind of suggested that. I was like, oh, that just makes his situation seem even more morbid and more messed up. She gets Archie to kind of start something at Stonewall Prep to kind of like catch them off guard. Lo and behold, Archie shows up there like Brett, and Brett's like, oh crap. He literally runs away from Archie, goes in the room, but Archie barges in and kind of hits him. And so, but Donna and Brett start talking, but yeah, they know there's a recording device in there, and it's like, oh, should at least plant it more than one. It's like, that's a little too obvious. I mean, because like they kind of played something so straightforward, like, oh, we can see what you were doing. You were doing that trying to rile us up to catch us off guard. Yeah, it's not going to happen. It's like, they're professional. The Stonewall kids are professional assholes. They know how to cover their tracks pretty well, sadly. So it's just, things aren't looking good, in their favor. And now, obviously, FP is getting more and more worried about Jughead. Obviously finds the rock, but it's like they disposed of the rock. So it's like, how did this? All right, so most likely Donna and the other ones, because they had made it clear, like, yeah, Brett seemed like at the beginning like he was a head honcho. It's like, nah, this is totally Donna's little game. So because she's the one that definitely played the part of being the victim and everything. So like she's definitely revealing herself to be kind of the mastermind behind all of this. But the fact of the matter is, it's like a rock showed up at a crime scene. FP found it using some paint and stuff like that. Fake blood. Betty, gets a fake rock and has Charles switch it out. And I love that. Like it happens, it goes down at Pop's, and he hands her the rock, and she just grabs it really quickly and put it in her coat. And this gives the other one down below, and Charles has it like up above the table. She's like, "What the hell are you doing?" It's like, once again, it's like she's the one that's acting more professional than you, and in exchange like that, he's like, "Okay, so this is." I'm like, that's why I'm like, there's something like he wants to slip up. Like I don't know what it is. He just. It's like some moments he seems like he's giving it all, and his other moments it just seems like he's half-assing it. So it's almost like, okay, you don't like I said, what is your game, Charles? We as the audience know you have a game. Betty sadly doesn't know, but I'm wondering like what the hell that's all about. But it seems like no matter what they do, like. Obviously, the Stonewall Kids end up being a step ahead. And obviously, Veronica ends up, because like her admission to that school she was trying to get into, they end up turning her down because they end up finding about her, Cheryl's side business. That, so it's like, at first I was like, oh, it had to be your sister, it had to be Hermosa, but it's like, oh no, the Stonewall Prep Kids. I was like, that makes sense. Not unless it's not actually them, that is actually your sister. To be fair, Veronica ends up making peace because obviously, her and her dad because for him it's the thing of like, he didn't want to look weak in front of her, so that's why he didn't say anything, because like Hiram has always wanted to present this presence of like, oh, I'm strong, I'm in control, and now he's always been a bit of a control freak, and now all that power and control is slipping into his fingers because of something he can't really control, that just being like, this disease. So but for him, he wants, Veronica and Hermosa to be good. He is like your sister, so bury the hatchet, which she's like, for her dad's sake, she'll do it. And because of that, they're both being named executives of, his estate and everything. So drawing up the will and everything. But then Hermosa brought up the fact is, what was that about, going to take a year off from school and everything? It's like, like no one pushes back that school. Why? And she's like, okay, for daddy's, like we're doing this for dad's sake. Could you just, for once, not just be such a suspicious bitch or something like that? And I was like, and Hermosa's like, oh, fine, it's going to be more fun when I find out. It's just like, why? Your whole point is supposed, like, Veronica's at least making an attempt. Can't you? Like, why are you up in her business like that? You don't want her all up in yours. But I guess she'll be like, I have nothing to hide. We'll see if that ends up being the case. But so there's that whole situation. Archie and his mom, because his mom keeps being like, it's like, oh yeah, it's not fair with the whole Jughead situation. Well, there's so much going on at once. I need to circle back around to. Well, first and foremost, it's like, obviously Veronica being suspicious of Betty and everything. It's like, okay, so we got to find out the truth. And Betty ends up saying like, I think they used a word on me. But then, using Charles because he helped out before, it's like they look back and it's like, no, Donna never used a word. She just sprayed her with something that's dragon breath. I forgot what it is. I've seen that pop up in crime dramas, dragon breath. So I just can't remember what it was exactly. I feel like there was something fairly recent, probably not super recent, but fairly enough recently that referenced dragon breath. I just can't remember what. But nevertheless, it ends up being something that basically makes you a little loopy and just kind of like Betty definitely couldn't have killed Jughead. And so it turns out like Evelyn was just playing along because she really hates Betty. So Donna just manipulated the situation. So like there was no other secret word to make her do that. So definitely, so it's like, okay, so definitely Betty definitely didn't kill Jughead. That was Donna and them who did it. If anyone was going to do it, it was most likely Donna. I mean, to be fair, Brett was the last one we saw with Jughead, but I wouldn't be too surprised. I mean, it could have been a joint effort, literally all four of them. Like the way they're like, I mean, at least we saw three of them kind of blackmail, but Jonathan, I'm sure is just as much involved in this whole situation. I'm sure DuPont might be too. So obviously it's the full five, but we'll see. But the fact of the matter is, now that Betty, it relieves her and it relieves everyone else, because I think Betty the most was like, because she was scared, like, what if I did do something, because she knows she kind of has a bit of a dark side, and it's like, what if someone manipulate me to do that? But now it's like, oh wait, I didn't do it, so that kind of makes her feel better. And obviously it's like, okay, but now it's kind of a bit of a stalemate, because it's like, well, there's no body, so it is the perfect crime and everything, because if the body gets found, all your prints and stuff are going to lead to you being a killer. So you can't reveal the body, because if you reveal the body, you're basically going to be damning yourself. So Donna's kind of like, I got away with the perfect murder. Ha 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 ha. So Betty makes the only move that she thinks she can make. It's like, we got to shake this game up and make it kind of go more in our favor. So they start a search party and they find Jughead's body. Once again, we kind of got clips of that search party in a previous episode. Now we kind of got more context with it, understanding like what's going down. And they end up finding the body. Obviously, neither Brett nor Donna was counting on that, because like, why would you do that? Because it just super incriminates you. But it also proves us how scary Betty is too, because like, she can have such a straight face. It seems like Veronica and Archie were the ones with the most worry on their face. It seems like Betty, strangely enough, it's, she's a little caught off guard, but at the same time, it seems like it's more, I don't know, like, the sad thing is, it almost feels like it's more about stopping Donna and them than it is about proving, about getting, justice for Jughead. That's the complicated feeling about it. The way it's at least presented that way is so complicated. It seems like it's more about that than Jughead's murder, but still. But even Donna was like, why would you do that? It's like, yeah, but Betty's like, oh, the fact of the matter is, you kind of went up against the wrong person. The fact of the matter is, I'm the daughter of the Black Hood and everything. Like, you picked you should have never messed with me. Basically, it's like, oh, I'm not going after Brett or Joan or Jonathan. I'm coming after you personally. Once again, calling her a bitch. And I'm like, once again, it's like Betty loves throwing that word around. To be fair, Veronica also threw the word around too, but it's just like, I guess that's just proof of just like, to be fair, like, Betty hates them. I kind of understand that too, because they're so frustrated. You're like, oh, they're so smug and they think they're going to get away with everything. But now it's like, okay, so what do we do now? It's like, well, we got to wait for them to make a move before we can make ours. And so it's like, all right, so it's going to turn into this like, murder cat and mouse game to a certain extent. So it's like, once again, trying to understand like the full picture of everything, because I brought up before, I didn't believe Jughead was dead. It's like, he can't be. Like, there's got to be some red herring behind this that I'm not aware of, because the point is that Jughead went there, he had the mask, he put the mask on, then he went with Brett and he left taking the mask. Well, he was with Brett, he took the mask off, and I was like, what was the whole point of putting the mask on in the first? Like, there's something going on there. Like, that can't be Jughead's body. But the fact of the matter is, they disposed of the body and everything. That's why I'm like, I don't know, man. I don't know. Jughead made that whole thing of like, do you trust me? And it's like, he definitely has something planned. So is Betty, Veronica, and Archie trapped in what is essentially Jughead's own game? Or could it be a thing that Betty's the only one that's out of the loop? I would assume Archie and Veronica are out of the loop too, because it seems, not unless they're acting their asses off, but I don't know. Like, it might be one of those red herring things of like, you see moments of them being worried and stuff like that, but it might be part of the act of like, all right, like, just in case anyone's listening or being, I don't know what to make of that. But also Archie telling his mom, that could be a thing of like, all right, I got to tell you the truth so you're not worried, Mom. Like, the true truth, not just like, oh, we killed Jughead and covered that up. To be fair, his mom is a lawyer, so it's going to be interesting. Like, she can represent them and everything. We'll see. To be fair, like, the lodges have a lot of money, so that could be kind of covered on that front as well. Or Charles at FBI. Like I said, I just don't trust Charles. Like I said, I'm curious, is he mixed up in this? Or is that just going to become something that gets dealt with after all of this? I need to know. Because I'm so like I said, I'm trying to find the holes in this thing to be like, okay, see if I can figure it out way in advance, but I don't know. We are slowly probably going to like go through all the little fast forward things we got of like going from like, obviously the everything we've seen like fast forwarded in this season about the whole like ending with them being arrested and Donna and Brett being like, yeah, it was totally them. So it's like, we'll ultimately have to wait and see where all that ends up taking us going forward into the next episode. I'm really curious to find out where this is all going to take us. But really, that's all I want to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day, and goodbye.